The Chicago Bulls have been really disappointing this season. Let's get into this. Coming into this season, the Chicago Bulls didn't really have much of any expectations for them going forward, in terms of them making the playoffs this year at least. They were still kind of in a rebuilding phase, but they did although have a pretty nice young core going for them, of Zach LaVine, Larry Markkanen, Kobe White, and a few other guys they had on the roster which were decent players. But in the first half of the season, the Chicago Bulls really excelled and exceeded expectations, and were firmly in the playoff race, and a lot of people started to raise their expectations at that point. Zach LaVine was having a career year and he was taking over games like usual. Kobe White was improving, Larry Markkanen was taking a little bit of a step up, and the Chicago Bulls were playing really great team basketball. The Chicago Bulls at that point, at the midway point, were really exceeding expectations, and in the front office's eyes, they decided they need to go for it and really try to make the playoffs and make some noise in the playoffs. The Chicago Bulls ended up deciding making a few deals, but the biggest deal they ended up making was going after all-star center Nikola Vucevic, who I, by the way, think is a super underrated player, and maybe he's the most underrated player in the league. Vucevic is one of the most talented players in the deep post in the league, with his amazing feet work and great finishing touch around the rim. Even against the best NBA defenders in the post, Vucevic typically makes them look silly with his amazing feet work in the post. And what really changed Nikola Vucevic from a pretty good player into an all-star type player, and maybe a little bit better, was the fact that Vucevic was able to extend his range not only to the mid-range, but he's also now hitting threes at a pretty good rate. Nikola Vucevic is obviously an extremely talented player, and the Orlando Magic weren't just going to give up Vucevic for nothing. They got a pretty decent package back of Wendell Carter Jr., who I think is a really talented young center in this league, along with Otto Porter Jr. and a few first-round picks. Now, obviously, when you go player by player, like, is Otto Porter better than Vucevic? Obviously not even remotely close. Is Wendell Carter better than Vucevic? Obviously not even close at this point. But obviously, so far, since they got Nikola Vucevic, they have been playing actually really poorly, and they really disappointed so far after making that deal. Now, obviously, most people are going to say that Nikola Vucevic is the issue with the Chicago Bulls because they were playing pretty well and solidly in the playoff hunt, and now they're falling out. They're currently the 11th seed after the Washington Wizards went on an absolute tear to take the 10th seed from them. But I personally don't think that Nikola Vucevic is the issue with the Chicago Bulls. I think it's more so chemistry isn't necessarily all there, and for any team it would be tough to bring in a new player in the middle of the season, especially a guy like Nikola Vucevic, who's an absolute star in this league and deserves to get the ball and a lot of touches in the post. Like before, when they had Otto Porter and Wendell Carter Jr., Wendell Carter was an extremely underrated and great rebounder in the league, so obviously that provides a ton of extra shots for Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Larry Markkanen, or whoever, and it makes the offense a little easier when he can get offensive rebounds like that, and also defensive rebounds he is also very talented at. So obviously, after playing good defense, the last thing you got to do is rebound. You can be a great defensive team, but if you can't rebound, it doesn't matter. So the fact that he was such a great rebounder really helps them out, along with obviously Otto Porter, who was a very good shooter, and he was shooting pretty well this season, a little above his average. And Otto Porter is one of those 3-and-D type guys which every team in the NBA really needs, and really provides the glue that every team needs. When you look at all the top contenders in the league, when you talk about the Clippers, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Nets, the Bucks if you want to say them, the Sixers, at the trade deadline when all those teams need to retool and re-add players to their team, what are they all looking for? They're all looking for guys who can shoot the three really well and space the floor really well. And Otto Porter was exactly that guy. And when you add a really good defensive player, which he was on top of that, that makes him extremely valuable. Porter obviously provides a lot of spacing for Zach LaVine to go to work, because obviously now that defender can't help off Otto Porter because Zach LaVine could easily kick it to Otto Porter. He's a very high percentage shooter, so he'd most likely hit that shot. So just a threat of Otto Porter being able to hit that shot would force that defender to stay close to him, providing more space for a pick and roll, let's say with Larry Markkanen and Zach LaVine, or even Kobe White and Larry Markkanen, and just really let those guys go to work and make it easier for them. So I don't necessarily think it's Vucevic's fault, but when you just look at what the Bulls lost in Otto Porter and Wendell Carter and what they're able to provide, and you look on top of that, they've been playing with the Chicago Bulls all season, and they all built a chemistry, pretty good chemistry together with Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Larry Markkinen, and all those guys. Obviously, they had a pretty good chemistry going and playing really great team ball, because before that trade, the Chicago Bulls were solely in the playoff hunt, and ever since they made that trade, they kind of fell off a little bit. I just really think the main reason why the Chicago Bulls aren't playing as well as they were before is more so due to chemistry than anything else. And obviously, when you lose some spacing with Otto Porter, that definitely does hurt a lot, but obviously Vucevic is a much better player than Wendell Carter Jr. is, at least at this point, and he's way more versatile, that's for sure. So the fact that now you can run a pretty effective pick and roll or pick and pop with Zach LaVine could be pretty dangerous, but the fact that you don't have as many shooters around them hurts them as well, so it's a two-way street with that. Zach LaVine and Vucevic are obviously extremely talented, and I think if they keep those two together going next season and put some shooters around those two, I think they're too talented to not figure it out. And I think next season, if they keep that same core together, I think they'll be a lot better than they were to end this season. Because when you look at the team they have around Zach LaVine and Vucevic, when you talk about Kobe White, Larry Markkinen, and some other guys they have, I really do think they have a pretty young and talented core, and they're just too good to not be higher in the playoff rankings. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the Chicago Bulls could potentially be a lot better than where they are now, and Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic could really work it out and make it work together? Or do you think those two won't really work out together and the Bulls need to trade one of them out for the Bulls to get better? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.